묻잖아 누구냐니까! 야 이 개새끼야!
You don't cry until you see the coffin answering the wrong question? That's on you, bro. As the leader of the largest gang in the Jiangnan area, the Venomous Snake Gang, Big Brother Tae-sik has never been threatened like this before. But what's really got him confused is who the two brothers managed to piss off so badly. Who are these mysterious people they're dealing with? Before this all kicked off, Tae-sik was just a disheveled man running a pawnshop, barely scraping by. He didn't look like much, and the neighbors didn't think highly of him. It wasn't just because he was cold and distant, it was those calluses on his hands, clear signs that he wasn't shy about using force. But whenever the neighbors scolded him for his odd behavior, Tae-sik would meekly comply, acting like a sheep instead of the man they thought he was. Tae-sik kept to himself, no friends, no real social life, but in that solitude, he became well acquainted with the darkness, to the point where he could sense anyone hiding in it.
죽는다.
And then there was the girl Somi. Like Tae-sik, she seemed to live in the shadows, and, in a way, she became his only friend here. Unlike Tae-sik's silence, Somi was chatty, always following him around, talking his ear off. Tae-sik didn't respond much, but as long as he knew Somi was hungry, he'd invite her over to eat, making sure to feed her favorite dishes. Because of this, Somi was the only one who knew that the seemingly cold-hearted Tae-sik was actually a softie on the inside. But Somi's mother, seeing her daughter always hiding out at Tae-sik's place, assumed he had bad intentions, but it's usually the ones who point fingers who aren't exactly good people themselves. Somi's mother wasn't just a nightclub dancer, she was a full-fledged addict. In an attempt to make more money, she teamed up with her boyfriend and secretly stole a batch of goods from the Venomous Snake Gang's deal. Driven by greed, Somi's mother decided to stash the goods inside a camera and pawn them at Tae-sik's place for safekeeping. What she didn't realize was that the stolen goods belonged to Oh Myung-gyu, the Venomous Snake Gang's major backer. Naturally, Oh Myung-gyu was furious and vented his anger on the gang leader, Man-suk. If it weren't for the money involved, Man-suk would have retaliated against Oh Myung-gyu long ago. But money wasn't enough to clean up this mess.
3일이다. 중국 아들 잡아둘 수 있는 게 3일이야. 그 사이에 샘플로 들어온 헤로인 못 찾으면 동생 넘어가 싸잡아가 인체 신비전에 보내뿐다.
Unhappy, Oh Myung-gyu tried to assert his power with harsh words, thinking it would intimidate everyone. What he didn't know was that the Venomous Snake Gang was called Venomous Snake for a reason. The two brothers in charge were ruthless and cunning. Man-suk's brother, Jong-suk, was thrilled when he learned they had found the thief. So when they brought the guy in for questioning, Jong-suk couldn't contain his excitement, eager to remind him, the Venomous Snake brothers were merciless and treated human life like dirt. Man-suk, known for his cold, swift, and decisive actions, liked to handle business cleanly and thoroughly, cutting off all threats without hesitation.
때까지 불어. 너 고추 잘라서 토치로 그슬린다? 하나.
용서해주세요.
둘.
살려주세요. 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 용서해주세요. 살려주세요. 살려주세요.
깜짝이야. 쓸데없는 짓 하고 있어. 밥 왔어. 밥 먹어.
Jong-suk, on the other hand, was infamous for his cruel, sadistic ways, taking pleasure in torturing his enemies to satisfy his twisted needs. Though they killed the man who had stolen the goods, they learned from his confession that he had an accomplice, a female partner. This news made Jong-suk even more excited. After all, torturing people was his favorite pastime, and the thought of tormenting a woman made it all the more thrilling. What he didn't expect, though, was an unexpected twist. Somi, returning home late, happened to witness Jong-suk torturing her mother. Frozen in fear, she couldn't move until a man appeared behind her. Meanwhile, Tae-sik, coming back to his place, found the door lock had been tampered with, but instead of panicking, he calmly walked inside. As soon as he entered, two men hiding in the dark switched on the lights. The leader, Du-chi, immediately drew a knife, trying to intimidate Tae-sik. Thinking they were trying to rob him, Tae-sik reached into his pocket to grab his wallet, but Du-chi felt insulted by this response. In less than a second, Tae-sik snatched the knife from Du-chi's hand with lightning speed, sending Du-chi retreating in fear. But despite this display of power, Bear, who had been watching from behind, wasn't intimidated. A loud crash of glass shattered the silence, and Bear collapsed, unconscious, leaving Du-chi frozen in shock. The noise, however, attracted the attention of the assassin Lum Ramroan. When Lum Ramroan saw the thin, disheveled Tae-sik effortlessly take down the 200-pound bear, he knew this man's strength couldn't be underestimated. Not wanting to make a scene, Lum Ramroan decided to have Tae-sik negotiate with Jong-suk. When Tae-sik answered the phone, he learned that Somi and her mother had been kidnapped. If Tae-sik didn't return the package that Somi's mother had pawned, they would kill both of them immediately. Without hesitation, Tae-sik decided to hand over the package to the intruders. After Duchi confirmed the goods were fine, Lum Ramroan received orders and immediately pulled out a gun, shooting Bear twice to kill him as he regained consciousness. Since Bear was one of Oh Myung-gyu's men, Lum Ramroan's actions signaled that the Venomous Snake brothers were planning to rebel. Lum Ramroan then left his phone at the scene, trying to pin the mess on Tae-sik. Chasing after them, Tae-sik could only watch helplessly as they made their escape. For Somi's safety, Tae-sik chose not to alert the police but instead waited quietly. Soon, he received a call from the kidnappers, the Venomous Snake brothers. Fully aware of Tae-sik's capabilities, loved nothing more than seeing rivals tear each other apart. They wanted Tae-sik to do something for them. If he succeeded, Somi and her mother would be safe. Without hesitation, Tae-sik followed their instructions, delivering the goods to Oh Myung-gyu at the agreed time and place. But what Tae-sik didn't expect was that this was all part of a trap set by the Venomous Snake brothers. Both parties were kept in the dark. The Venomous Snake brothers had tipped off the police in advance, setting up a sting to catch Oh Myung-gyu and Tae-sik in the act of trading. This move was their way of solidifying their power, getting rid of both Oh Myung-gyu and Tae-sik in one blow. The brothers' plan to eliminate both threats was nearly flawless. However, they overlooked one thing. Tae-sik was not only formidable, but also incredibly tough. When he saw Oh Myung-gyu trying to flee, Tae-sik wasn't going to miss the chance to take him down. After forcing Oh Myung-gyu's car to a stop, Tae-sik was about to move in to subdue him, but when he saw the trunk of the car had been forced open, he froze. To his disbelief, he found the body of Somi's mother inside the trunk, her organs removed, her naked body a gruesome sight. And this car was the one the Venomous Snake brothers had provided for Tae-sik to drive. It was then that Tae-sik realized the brothers never planned to let anyone go from the start. Now a suspect, Tae-sik was taken to the police station, where he underwent a urine test along with a group of gang members, but it didn't take long for the officers to notice something unusual compared to the heavily tattooed gang members. Tae-sik's body was covered in scars, including a bullet wound in his shoulder, clear signs of a man who had seen and survived far more than the average person. It turned out that Tae-sik had once been a top agent for the CIA. During a break, while taking his wife and child to a prenatal checkup, he was ambushed by enemies. His wife and child were killed on the spot, and he was severely wounded. This tragedy devastated him, leading to his downward spiral into the man he had become, the one running a pawnshop. Lost in despair, he thought he'd live the rest of his life in darkness, but the appearance of a girl, Somi, gave him a glimmer of light and warmth in his life. Her optimistic and cheerful nature helped heal the darkness inside him. But when he remembered the day Somi had been wrongly accused of theft and turned to him for help, Tae-sik, cold and distant, had turned away from her. His intention was to make Somi face her challenges on her own, but he didn't realize that by walking away, he had deeply hurt her. Somi, devastated, had taken back her cassette player and quietly left, saying goodbye.
아저씨도 제가 창피하죠. 반 애들도 그렇고 선생님도 그런데요 뭐. 엄마도 길 잃어버리면 주소랑 전화번호 모른 척하래요. 술 마시면 맨날 같이 죽자는 소리만 하고. 아저씨까지 미워하면 내가 좋아하는 사람 한 개도 없어. 그 생각하면 여기가 막 아파요. 그니까 안 미워할래.
Tae-sik never expected that his actions would cause her such sadness. Not one to express himself, he didn't explain anything at that moment, thinking he would talk to her later. But now, with Somi's mother dead and Somi missing, Tae-sik was consumed by regret and guilt. When interrogated by the police, he remained silent, having already made up his mind he was going to rescue Somi himself. After a short while, the officers collapsed, and Tae-sik vanished. When the police rushed back and reviewed the security footage, they saw Tae-sik taking on armed officers in the office, effortlessly knocking them out in mere seconds. In under 2 minutes, he single-handedly broke out of the police station. It became clear to the officers, this man was no ordinary person. Before the deal, Tae-sik had been cautious enough to dispose of his phone in a trash heap. Soon after, he tracked it down and located the largest underground black market for phones in the area. However, the dealer wasn't planning to cooperate, so Tae-sik didn't waste time with words. If you want someone to become cooperative immediately, a good beating is the most effective way to get results. After all, the law of survival of the fittest is both the harshest and the most efficient. Tae-sik learned from a black market dealer that the Viper Gang's illegal activities were extremely widespread. Jong-suk, the younger brother, ran an illegal lab and had a cruel woman working for him, luring homeless children into captivity. These kids were either used as containers for organs or sent to the lab to work as drug makers. Those who couldn't survive the toxic environment were dissected by Jong-suk to check what remained of their value. Man-suk, the older brother, was in charge of sourcing and selling the goods. He often selected groups of kids to act as mules, ensuring no suspicion from the police. But once these kids got sick, they became free organ donors. Although Oh Myung-gyu had managed to escape arrest after the incident, he was now a pariah, a rat running through the streets. So Man-suk sent people to deal with him, taking advantage of his downfall to wipe out any loose ends. Pleased with himself, Man-suk didn't expect to run into Tae-sik, who was searching for the brothers, right on his turf. At this point, Tae-sik hadn't seen Man-suk's face yet, so Man-suk stayed calm, signaling Jong-suk immediately. After all, Tae-sik was no ordinary person. He had escaped from the police station. The two passed each other unknowingly, but Tae-sik had already set up a bait, arranging a meeting with a buyer for illegal organs. Naively, Duchi was still asking which organs the buyer wanted when he saw something pass by on the ground. Duchi never imagined his bad luck would strike twice, running into Tae-sik, the walking disaster.
두고 안 물어.
After spilling the whole truth, Duchi was dragged by Tae-sik to meet the Venomous Snake brothers. Just as they stepped out of the restroom, they bumped into Lum Ramroan, who had come to clean up the mess. Using his exceptional reflexes, Tae-sik quickly dove into the men's room. As a professional assassin, Lum Ramroan wasn't about to let anything slip by. He carefully approached a stall where he heard an odd noise. What he found, however, was a woman. Tae-sik seized the opportunity and made his move. The two of them were evenly matched in their hand-to-hand combat, each landing blows back and forth. But gradually, Tae-sik's speed and relentless style began to show their advantage. Not wanting to continue the fight, Lum Ramroan picked up the fallen gun and immediately aimed it at Tae-sik. Shooting. Injured, Tae-sik quickly retaliated. The chase continued as Tae-sik pursued Lum Ramroan, following him into the crowded dance floor. There, they faced off, both ready with cold weapons, preparing for a brutal fight. But just as the tension reached its peak, Man-suk arrived and intervened, not wanting to escalate things further, especially when he saw the police had already sneaked into the area. Man-suk left his phone behind, telling him to call him. Tae-sik, realizing the police were after him, didn't want to lose track of his target. He intended to redirect the chaos back to the damn Venomous Snake brothers. This time, Tae-sik finally saw the true faces of the two masterminds, but they managed to escape. During the fight, Tae-sik had taken a bullet to the abdomen. Wounded, he managed to find an old comrade who immediately tended to his injuries. Without anesthesia, his comrade removed the bullet, and as Tae-sik teetered between life and death, countless memories flashed through his mind. He knew it was time to let go of the past and protect So-mi, the one who had brought light back into his life. Tae-sik began by cutting off his long hair with a razor blade, severing his ties to his past despair. He used a pin to clear away the last remnants of his doubts. With that, he made peace with himself. Now, he had regained his sharp edge. He put on a black suit, picked up the gun his comrade had prepared for him, and tested it with a single-handed chamber check. Recently, he had been out tracking down the Venomous Snake Gang using his former spy skills, quickly pinpointing their hideout. As soon as he stepped inside, Tae-sik was hit with a pungent odor. He had arrived at their illegal lab. Seeing Jong-suk overseeing the operation and using children to manufacture illegal substances, Tae-sik's anger flared up. When one of the children collapsed, Tae-sik followed quietly, wanting to see what the gang was planning. In his search, he stumbled upon the hollowed-out body of Oh Myung-gyu. Realizing the danger, Tae-sik immediately set out to find the thug who had been taking the children. By chance, he found the man preparing to sedate a girl for organ harvesting. Tae-sik coldly gestured for the girl to step aside. At the sound of a gunshot, the others emerged, confused, but the moment they saw the spark from the darkness, one of them fell, shot. Seeing this, Jong-suk immediately tried to flee, but it was too late. Tae-sik emerged from the shadows, his face cold and merciless, like a messenger from hell. Fueled by his anger, Tae-sik unleashed his fury, delivering a brutal beating to Jong-suk. Finally, with a violent throw, he slammed him against the wall like a helpless ragdoll. While Mansuk was inspecting the goods, he received a call from Tae-sik. The cold and ruthless Tae-sik wasted no time and let his brother Jong-suk's screams speak for themselves. He was making it clear that he asked the questions, you answer, not the other way around. But Mansuk insisted on threatening Tae-sik, saying if he hurt his brother any further, he would have Somi's eyes and organs removed and sold. In response, Jong-suk's cries grew even more agonizing. It was clear neither side was any good at negotiating. From the moment Somi's mother was killed, Tae-sik knew these brothers were lawless scum. So, he wasn't about to let Jong-suk survive. An explosive sound followed, and Tae-sik broadcasted it to the police, instructing the children he had rescued to wait for the authorities to arrive. Meanwhile, Tae-sik arrived at Mansuk's location. Mansuk, aware of the danger on both sides, had his men take the girl's eyes and place them in a jar, preparing it as a message for Tae-sik. When Tae-sik arrived, the room was filled with Mansuk's merciless thugs. As soon as they met, both sides immediately asked about the people they cared for. Mansuk then presented the jar with the girl's eyes to Tae-sik, as if throwing a stone to test the waters. He then demanded to know where his brother Jong-suk was. The news struck Tae-sik like a thunderbolt, almost shattering his resolve. But when sorrow and hatred mixed, it sparked an uncontainable rage. This rage became a fire so intense it could consume everyone in the room. With lightning speed and precision, Tae-sik moved, taking down half of Mansuk's henchmen before they even had time to react. Even when facing the professional assassin Lum Ramroan, Tae-sik not only outshot him but also outsmarted him tactically. Against the wave of ruthless criminals, Tae-sik showed no mercy, as his bullets ran out and he reloaded. A nearby thug lunged at him with a knife, but in close combat, Tae-sik was even more brutal and unforgiving, as the remaining thugs tried to surround him. Lum Ramroan, watching from behind, couldn't get involved but was curious to see just how skilled Tae-sik really was. After taking down all the thugs, the room looked like a slaughterhouse, blood flowing everywhere, but Tae-sik's expression was one of deep despair. As he looked at the eyes that had fallen beside him, he wanted to reach down and pick them up, but suddenly, the jar was shot and shattered. The shot destroyed the last shred of hope Tae-sik had. With a cold expression, he glanced at the shooter, almost as if asking, "Are you in such a hurry to die?" As the saying goes, a hero respects another hero. Lum Ramroan, deeply impressed by Tae-sik's strength, recognized him as a worthy opponent and wanted to face him in a fair, one-on-one fight. This led him to make the biggest mistake of his life. He put down his gun and challenged Tae-sik to a brutal, hand-to-hand duel. Tae-sik hadn't expected Lum Ramroan to be so skilled with his claw knives, attacking fiercely and with lethal precision, but facing a Tae-sik who had no fear of death, he fought with a clear mind, his blades striking with effortless grace. During the intense struggle, Tae-sik found an opening and cornered Lum Ramroan. Afterwards, Tae-sik pursued Mansuk, who was trying to escape with the money. As soon as Mansuk saw Tae-sik chasing him, he slammed the accelerator, trying to speed away, but he couldn't escape Tae-sik's precise marksmanship. After shooting out one of the car's tires, Mansuk's vehicle lost control and crashed. In that moment, The desperate Mansuk felt a fear he had never known. With no one to help him, he ironically called the police, hoping that turning himself in would be safer than facing death. But his plea for help was futile. Tae-sik wouldn't let him go. Just as Tae-sik was about to pull the trigger, Mansuk seemed to see a glimmer of hope. He believed that the bulletproof glass in his car could protect him, and even taunted Tae-sik, thinking it would buy him time. But he had underestimated Tae-sik, a former agent trained to handle situations like this. Dealing with bulletproof glass was part of their training. Tae-sik had avenged She-Pain, but the bright, innocent girl was lost forever. Overcome with despair, Tae-sik blamed his bad luck for everything. Just as he was about to end his tragic life, a familiar voice sounded in his ear. When he turned around, he saw Somi walking out of the shadows. It turned out that during Somi's surgery, Lum Ram Rowan, moved by her warmth and brightness, couldn't bear to let her die. So, he swapped her with someone else, saving Somi and, in the process, rescuing Tae-sik, who had nearly fallen into the abyss.
오지마. 피 묻어.
아저씨가 저 구하러 온 거 맞죠? 그쵸? 맞죠? 네.